So, let's get rocking on, we're going to do 4 examples of the Pythagorean theorem. Remember we talked about that yesterday? Leg squared plus leg squared is hypotenuse squared. Now, there is going to be a temptation on your part to want to write a squared plus b squared is c squared, and that's not wrong. And if you really want to insist on doing it, you're more than welcome to. Frankie, if you hit the lights, please. However, I do want to warn you that it always has to be, whenever you do a squared plus b squared equals c squared, that you must, without a doubt, you must have the c right on the right angle if you're going to do a squared plus b squared is c squared. The c must be at the right angle. One year, well, actually they did it twice. On the state assessment test, they did this. And myself and one other teacher in the district taught leg squared plus leg squared is hypotenuse squared. All of the other teachers taught a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and it's not that they're bad, because that's the way the state says that you should do it. And myself, my class, and the one other teacher's class, they got it, all the kids did well on the question. They did really, really, really well. Everybody else, the kids did terribly, just because they moved where the c goes. So that's why I don't like a squared plus b squared is c squared, but if you insist on doing it, as long as you remember that the c has to go on the right angle. Doesn't matter where the a's and b's goes, or go, but it matters where the c goes. As long as you do that, you're going to be okay. So all of that said, we're not going to do a squared plus b squared is c squared. We're going to do leg squared plus leg squared is hypotenuse squared. So I take a look at this figure, and every single time I do this, Davis, your head's got to be in the game, buddy. I didn't get too many carbs at lunch. Now, hey, by the way, where's my popcorn? Tomorrow, right?
I think so.
I hope so. All right.
He's like scared.
Now, yeah, I'm not going to beat you up. I just want my popcorn.
Mario
I'll send my friend Luigi after you. Now,
I said Mario asked you.
Whoa, Lord.
Alex, you really need to turn.
He's saying bad stuff.
It doesn't matter. Just let it
Figure
go.
out. Send Luigi.
Put your knee under your desk. Now, as soon as you draw the right angle, draw an arrow across. Label that side hypotenuse. And then we're going to do leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. I always like to write that. So the legs are 6 and 9. You don't necessarily need to write the word leg. You should write hypotenuse, so you remember which side is the hypotenuse. The legs don't matter, because in the formula, put it away. In the formula, they're all interchangeable. So 6 squared plus 9 squared equals n squared. What is 6 squared?
36.
36. What's 9 squared?
81.
Equals n squared. And that tells me that n squared is, if I add up 36 and 81, I get 117. That looks kind of weird, so I'm going to write it again down here. Now, this is the difference between yesterday and today. Yesterday's lesson, every single number worked out to be a perfect whole number. Sometimes you get square roots that you cannot figure out, at least to a whole number. If you can figure it out, it's called a perfect root. When you can't figure it out, it's called an imperfect root. The answer is going to be the square root of 117. Square root of n squared is n equals square root of 117. Done.
That's it.
That's it. You don't have to do anything with it yet. Now tomorrow, we're going to crank out calculators.
Yeah.
We'll give them to you, and tomorrow we'll show you how to use a calculator to round that to the nearest 10. Or 100. Or 1,000 for that matter. Yes?
Don't you put in point?
That, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Today, I just want you to know how to get the radical. Okay? Now, you guys do the middle one. Remember, sometimes you can figure out what the square root is. Sometimes you can't. Bless you. John, end the game. Again, I strongly suggest you write the words leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared, or that Pythagorean theorem formula at the top of the problem. If every time you need the formula you write it, you will get very good with that formula in no time. Okay, another 20 seconds or so. Okay, so this middle one, again, leg squared plus leg squared is hypotenuse squared. So 9 squared plus 12 squared equals n squared. 9 squared is 81. 12 squared is 144 is equal to n squared. 81 plus 144 adds up to 225. And I don't know if you know this or not, probably a little beyond what most of you have done, but if you square root both sides, square root of 225 is actually 15.
I got it
Right.
Yeah.
I got it right.
So if you left it square root of 225, for now that's okay, because starting tomorrow you'll have a calculator, and the calculator will let you say 15.
I did.
Okay, let's see you try the next one. And danger, danger, danger. The n is not on the hypotenuse, the n is on a leg.
What's it
This is
danger?
how we ended class yesterday. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead and game. Right. Okay, so as I look at this one, again, leg squared plus leg squared is hypotenuse squared. The big difference is, here's my right angle, the 14 is the hypotenuse, but the n and the 10 are legs. So I put the n in a leg place, the 10 in a leg place, and the 14 in the hypotenuse place. So I get n squared plus 100 equals, now 14 squared, I believe, is 176? 14 times 14? No, 196, sorry. So then I minus 100 from both sides. Die, n squared is 96.
33?
Square root, no, it's not 33, it's just the square root of 96. There is no perfect root of 96. There is not.
I got the decimal.
Again, we're not going to the decimal till tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll go to the decimal. Yes?
So if the n is on the left side, it'll be a different side up?
Well, this is what I want you to think of it as. Nothing different than doing equations. You see how, like, if I had 2n minus 1 equals 7, you'd have to get rid of the 1? So if I have the n over here, I've got to get rid of the 100. So it's really pretty much the same exact thing you've been doing all year.
Is that in one step?
Does that make sense? Is that a yes?
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't sound like it, but we got another day to play with it tomorrow. You just want to get letters on one side, numbers on the other. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. We didn't get to that last one where you kind of have to put them all together. It's a very, very difficult question. But tomorrow we'll do one just like it, and you'll get a chance to see it then. Okay? Oh, wait, is this 52 Ian?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Then we have a chance to get that question done. Beautiful. Excellent.
Yeah.
No.
Look at that. Yeah.
Well, we can take a break from that.
Why would you take a break from math? Don't you want to know how to do this stuff? Excuse me, slide back. Yes, you do. Listen, hey, listen, I'm very, very, very serious about this. Trust me on this one. You want to be smart. You really do. If you're not smart, then that means everybody else makes the money. Yeah. Bill Gates gave this commencement speech. Hey, Bill Gates gave this commencement speech, and the last lines of the commencement speech went something like this. A commencement speech is a graduation speech. The last lines went, "Be nice to nerds. One day you're gonna work for one." And he's right. He's really right. You know, the people who are very smart, you know, I think I know the moment in time when I cemented my job at Patch Elementary forever. Now, the way teaching works, it's a little different than other careers, but we were sitting in a lunch faculty room, and the principal of the school and the head of the guidance department were eating lunch with me, a man named Jack Sexton and Jack Anderson. They were eating lunch, and they were discussing how at the school dance at the high school, they were shocked that the only song that everybody danced to was New York, New York by Frank Sinatra. And I said, that shouldn't surprise anybody. And they looked at me and they go, they don't even know about Frank Sinatra in New York, New York. I said, yeah, but that's not why kids dance at dances and what they do. I said, the minute kids walk into a dance, they got all these cliques going on. I said, you got your ones who like R&B. You got your ones who like hip hop. You got your ones who like heavy metal. You got your ones who like classic rock and roll. Now the classic rock and roll guys, every time they play hip hop, that classic rock and roll guy will not go out on that dance floor. And every time the hip hop guy hears heavy metal, he will not go out on that dance floor. They just won't listen or support the other guy's music. But New York, New York, nobody is against New York, New York. So they can all go on the dance floor, they're all New Yorkers, they can all participate in New York, New York. And the principal and the head of guidance looked at me and went, wow, we never thought about it like that before. And all of a sudden, I started getting all of these really good positions at work. And they started saying, hey, Bob, don't you want this position? Don't you want that position? Because I showed them that I could think on my feet. And then I remember a few years later, the person who was at the time in the district, she was in charge of instructional services, and she got in an argument with a friend of mine. And I argued back for him, and not mean, not disrespectful, just stated a case. And she looked at me afterwards, and everybody left the room, and she said, Bob, can I see you for a minute? And I said, okay. And she said, first off, she said, thank you for being so respectful. And she said, you know what? I learned a really valuable lesson today. I said, you did? She said, yeah, I'm never gonna argue with you again. So you learn, your intelligence goes before you. Now, if you own a company, do you want smart people in that company? Or do you want not so smart people in the company? You want smart people. So the smarter you make yourself, the more marketable you make yourself. And the more marketable you make yourself, the more doors open up for you and the more opportunities you have in life. So I think that you want to be smart. Now, the problem with being smart is it takes effort. You can't be smart and be lazy at the same time. You're going to have to decide. Yeah, me too. Me too. But it just doesn't work that way. So you have to decide what you want to be. Do you want to be lazy or do you want to be smart? You pick and choose. Now, here's a good example of what I think is a somewhat challenging question. It gets even more challenging later on. And this is a bit of like a real life problem. Now, it's not exactly real life, but it's pretty close. So you got like a soda can or a cup or something like that, and somebody puts a straw in this cup.
Nice.
They want to know how long is that straw so that it fits in the cup perfectly from the base to the top. Well, again, it might be something you would really want to know if you were, for instance, designing some kind of dog toy, or if you were engineering a part for a car, like you were making a piston, because this does kind of look like a piston that would go inside of a car engine, and you might, for some reason, need to know the diagonal distance in that piston, right? So there are times and places where these things need to be known. Now, does the average guy in the average house need this? No, absolutely not. But what really matters, Josh, is that you're taking your brain and you're applying it to a brand new situation, and rather than give up and say, well, I'll never need to know that, you're actually forcing your brain to learn something it wasn't comfortable with. And if you can get your brain to do that, that's a really valuable skill. On the other hand, if every time you see something you're not comfortable with, you go, forget that. You get really good at going, forget that. And the boss gets really good at going, forget you. All right? So it's a pretty simple situation. Now, we have look, what kind of shape is this blue shape right here?
Triangle.
What kind of triangle? Let's be specific.
Right.
A right
right,
triangle.
I'm
A
so
right triangle means I gotta think Pythagorean theorem. So, leg squared plus leg squared is hypotenuse squared. Now, what's the length of the two legs in this diagram? Alex?
8 and 15.
8 and 15, very good. So I get 8 squared plus 15 squared equals what?
X
X
squared.
squared. Remember, it's leg squared plus leg squared equals what? Hypotenuse squared, very good. Now, what is 8 squared? 64, good. You may remember this from before, if not, you gotta scratch paper it. What's 15 squared? 225. Good, is equal to x squared. Now, are these guys on the same side or on opposite sides? Same side, same side? 64 and 225 makes? 289. So then I know that I have to square root. And there is a perfect square root of 289. There is.
143.
17.
Hey, guys.
17.
You're welcome.
So that means that the straw would have to be 17 centimeters long. Okay?
How did you find that out?
He's a math teacher.
You know what? You know, Josh, it's a great question. Let me ask you, do you lift weights? Okay. Do you lift more now than when you first started, or not? Yeah, of course, right?
Wow, yeah.
Now, when you first started, I'm just gonna throw numbers out. Okay, well, I'll use me, for example, rather than you. When I was in 9th grade and I first tried the bench press, I did 90 pounds or 95 pounds, some ridiculously low amount of weight. And then when I was a senior in high school, I did 330 pounds. Big difference. Do you think I got to 330 in a day? No, it took me almost 3 years to get to 330. Well, how do you get smart enough to do this question? You do your work every day. And 3 years later, you look up and you go, that's easy. That's the nature of the beast. Well, think of how much better you are at math today than you were back when you were in 6th grade.
What?
You remember 6th grade?
Yeah,
I do.
I was late.
Yes, I agree.
What?
Yeah, all right, okay.
Kevin.
I mean,
Oh, no, there's sweet children.
That's my favorite.
Oh, I like it.
okay, Ava, can I have my Doritos back then?
But that's all right. I think. Yep. Yep. I just gotta be careful with Charlie.
Why?
It's got raisins. Peanuts.